can't fake as many emotions as I have without acquiring a certain outer greatness. And by many I mean the great three: lust, disdain, and blank. And then, of course, the subtler permutations: lusty disdain, lusty blankness, disdainful lust, disdainful blankness, blank lust, blank disdain, and, of course, my favorite, blank blank, or the Joan Crawford. How I hated that whore. Inside, I'm a complete den of garbage, but on the outside, I've knocked myself into shape pretty darn well, don't you think? Hollywood is a big hairy pimp screaming for an orgasm that never comes, and you have to keep sucking at it until your jaw feels like it's going to snap without pausing to fish out the hairs from your aching teeth. I'm surprised I can still talk. I've sucked so much Hollywood cock. Well, yes, you'd think I was talking metaphorically, but contrary to popular belief, this broad didn't get here today on talent alone. No, there were some pretty shady shenanigans going on, but I was just better at covering it up. So, of course, we all had to get good at the reluctant art of fellatio back then, sucking the snake, chowing the chalk, gargling the gargoyle, glugging the good stuff. We had to get pretty darn good at it if we wanted to get parts and dress pretty, which of course we did. What else was there to do, for Christ's sakes? Bake? Baking's for ugly women and old people. For Joan Crawford. Back then, men were different too. This was pre-feminism, so their pricks swelled differently. They knew what they were for. They knew they were needed. They knew they could whack you round the head with it and be guaranteed a cheer at the end if you were still conscious. Pricks have withered a bit since women decided to stop being such saps. Women are more fun. Women are lesbians. Women now know they can suck cock whenever they feel like it and stop halfway through if they get bored. I was exceptionally good at this indispensable life skill. Sucking cock, not baking. I was and am still shit at baking. I hardly ever ate, so my throat was exquisitely narrow, and I lost my gag reflex in a skiing accident in Aspen when I was 5. Oh, good times. So naturally, I said to Tony Curtis, another darling acting fraud, "Tony, if you don't take your pinky out of my ass, I will clench these delicious marble buttocks together until your finger snaps off and gets sucked up into my rectum. And it'll feel right at home. It'll be like one of your movies up there." And, of course, we all just fell about. That was at one of Orson's famous cunt parties. We were playing a game of draw a beauty mark on the labia. I was splayed out on an ottoman in the darkness with Betty Grable, and we'd locked that whore Joan Crawford in the dumbwaiter, and Orson was snuffling around like a pig searching for truffles, waving a marker pen and screaming for Rosebud. I bet you didn't know that Rosebud was a twat, did you? He was a great man, Orson, but gee was he lousy at party games. He'd fall around sozzled and raw when he couldn't find a slither of pussy within his fat grasp. He'd roar until we all fell about laughing till we damn near puked. Sometimes we would puke. Cary Grant would gargle it and do a Betty Davis impression. Betty Davis would fart and do a Cary Grant impression, and then we'd all just fall about laughing till we puked again. Oh, good times. My, our lady parts were pretty back then. If we could physically detach them, we would have pawned them years ago. If they hadn't sagged from fine silk purses into sow's ears and we didn't need them to pee out of, there'd be enough vintage vag to start a fistfight at Sotheby's. Spencer Tracy always said mine was like finding a pearl after years of poking around in rotten clams. Oh, Spence. He made my heart soar. He made my soul feel like it had arrived home after a long, long journey. After losing him, I was like a stopped clock. On the face of it, okay, but look closely and you'll see the tick is gone. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Jesus, Joan Crawford really was a complete whore.